Guys, Joan Ribs here, coming at you with another Spire chat. Today I want to talk about Apparition. This is a pretty new card in the game. It was introduced quite recently, and there's an event in Act 2 where you can get 5 of these. And as far as I know, that's the only place that you can get Apparitions. I have never seen it purchasable at a store, and I've never seen... There's an event in Act 3 where you get to choose between colorless cards, but I've never seen it available there. I think Apparition and Bite are only available from the Act 2 events that you get them from. So, Apparition, in this event, you get 5 of this card and have to pay half of your max HP in order to do it. You just lose half your max HP for the rest of the run, so it's a very steep price. Is the card powerful enough to justify doing that? I've found that sometimes I want to grab Apparitions and sometimes I don't. So I'm going to try to explain what's going into my reasoning behind it and tell you what I think about the card. An intangible gives you the Nemesis buff. This gains you 1 intangible, and that's the Nemesis buff. The Act 3 elite who makes it so your attacks only deal 1 damage to him. Intangible applies to all the damage you take and all of your HP loss, so you take 1 damage from enemy attacks. If they're multi-attacking you, like if they attack you 6 times, you'll take 6 damage total, but you can never take more than 1 damage from 1 individual attack. And it applies to all the other stuff too. If you attack something with thorns, you'll only take 1 damage. If you play Offering, instead of costing you 4 hit points, it costs you 1 hit point. If the enemy explodey things explode, they only hit you for 1 damage, so on and so forth. It works pretty much exactly how it says it works. The only sort of weird interaction is if you're on the beta branch and you fight against the flame summoning Act 3 enemy and you're intangible, his flame summons, when they try to explode and deal 25 damage to you and 25 damage to themselves, instead they deal 1 damage to you and 1 damage to themselves, so they stick around until the next turn. That's the only weird thing that I've found with Intangible. Otherwise, it's a very, very powerful thing which seems to act very consistently in the game. And yeah, I mean, gaining 1 Intangible, that is extremely powerful. It works with block, so if you have 10 block and something's attacking you for 30, gaining Intangible will not only make them only attack for 1, but also that 1 will get absorbed by your block. And just in general, this card's very strong as a mitigative source. However, the issue with the card is... Okay, there are 2 big issues. There are 3 big issues. One is you give up half your max HP. Already said that. Yeah, we get that. 2, you only get 5 of these, and that becomes the second and third issues. Problem 1 is you may not draw them at the right time. You don't have like 100 of them, so you can always become intangible whenever you want. And when you only have half of your max HP, so you're sitting at like 30, 35 hit points, quite likely. If you're getting attacked for 40 this turn and you don't draw an Apparition, you could just be dead. There is a certain amount of exposure to variance that you're bringing on yourself when you commit to having such low HP and being reliant on this one card for so much of your mitigation. Now, it's definitely possible to just have a good mitigation engine and have Apparition on top of it, and that can be very powerful. I don't know how relevant that is, because if your mitigation engine is that good, you already had the mitigation, you know? Like, okay, so Apparition's probably fine there, but it was probably fine not to take Apparition as well. I think generally in situations where your mitigation engine's really strong, you can choose to take Apparition or you can choose not to take Apparition. You'll be probably fine either way. But when your mitigation engine isn't super strong, deciding whether to go for Apparition to try to fix that problem, or if you want to try to fix your mitigation engine in a way that might be a little bit more consistent, is a pretty tough decision in my experience. So yeah, there are only 5 of them, and they exhaust and are ethereal. So even if you do draw these cards at the times that you want, when you play them, they will exhaust themselves, so you don't get to play them again. And if you don't play them, and hold them in your hand for the rest of the turn, they'll exhaust themselves then as well. So unless you're doing Exhume or Burst shenanigans, you're only getting 5 stacks of intangible out of this card over the course of a fight, and you may be getting even fewer if you don't play them when you draw them. A neat trick with Ethereal is that if your deck's good at discarding cards, you can draw an Apparition and discard it, and that way it goes in your discard pile, and you can maybe draw it later in a fight if you don't need it that turn. You can also upgrade the card, and the upgrade makes it lose Ethereal. So now you don't even have to worry about discarding it. And Apparition Plus, especially coupled with something like Well-Laid Plans for Silent. Ooh, they've changed this. It's the first time I get to play around with it being changed. You can just hold that Apparition Plus in your hand. That can be a very, very, very powerful solution to some of the Act 2 bosses. Hyper Beam and the Champ both have turns where they attack you for extreme amounts of damage. And did I just call him Hyper Beam? Automaton is his name. I just call him Hyper Beam. And holding an Apparition Plus with Well-Laid Plans just completely invalidates their attack. You're blocking, 60 plus damage with this card. So, yeah, if you're weird, this is so weird. Oh my god, this is weird. If you're relying on Apparition to mitigate damage in those fights, it can be very nice to get an upgrade on it. Or if you pick it up with Toxic Egg, all of them will be upgraded at the same time, of course. Something to think about. The really short answer regarding whether or not you should take the Apparition event is that I don't really know yet. This event, because a lot of the downside is built into very high variance stuff, I just don't have enough experience yet playing with the card, and I haven't sat down and tried to do all the math on it. The experience that I have had is that if I think my deck can kill stuff in 5 or 6 turns, Apparition seems to be good to take. So a deck which is very strong offensively, I have not found that the variance involved in Apparition at Ascension 15 is enough to make me ever veer away from taking it if my deck has that much damage output. Now, if my deck doesn't have as much damage output, I need my mitigative engine to last more than 5 turns. And in those situations, Apparition has been less good for me, somewhat, but still quite strong as a bridge. If you think about silent decks in particular, they want to play their footworks and after images, right? Get footwork in play, get after image in play, stuff like that. And on those turns when they're setting up, they don't have as much energy to just play backflip or whatever, and even if they did, it doesn't block for as much. So even in a slow silent deck, I've found Apparition to be pretty good because I can, instead of trying to play 3 backflips on turn 2 to block or whatever, I can play 1 footwork, 1 Apparition, attack something if I want, and just take 2 damage. And that's pretty good. That's fine in my experience, and really opens up what the deck can do in the opening turns. I found that to be quite strong. I think Apparition's probably quite a lot less strong on Ironclad than it is on Silent. There are 2 things going into that. Ironclad has more of a health pool, so they're giving up more health, and they don't mind taking chunks of damage in fight anywhere near as much because they have more regen available to them. They also have some things that are very strong with high max HP. For example, Reaper. If you have 120 HP and you're able to Reaper up to full HP every fight, that's more strong than if you have 60 HP and Reaper up to full every fight. And also, if you're Reapering up to full every fight, why does it even help you to not take damage in a fight? Something to think about. So, yeah, my experience is that Intangible has been strong on Ironclad as well, but it's probably something that I care more about on Silent. Those are basically my thoughts about the card. I don't think I have anything more than that right now. So, to recap, very, very strong, a little bit dangerous because of the variance, but still strong enough to take usually. The only time that I don't really want to take Apparition is either when my mitigative engine is already in place, so I don't feel like it's necessary at all. And in those situations, I think I probably could take it and win the run still, but maybe I'm exposing myself to a little bit more randomness that I don't need or something like that. You know, could maybe go either way. Or my deck is slow to deal damage, and I just feel like I need to work on other mitigative stuff, and maybe my max hit points are very relevant to surviving on turns 6 through 10 or whatever. And honestly, the times where I don't think Apparition is great to take are times when I feel like I've already won the run or feel like I've already lost the run. Because if my deck can't kill stuff by turn 5 and doesn't have a great mitigative engine already, we're probably not doing super hot in Act 2. So yeah, I think Apparition's a super strong card. I have chosen not to take it, definitely, but I'm generally pretty happy to get the event. It's really strong to have like a singing bowl or a feed when you get offered this event, so that you lose your max HP, but then every time your singing bowl gives you another 2 HP or your feed gives you another 3 HP. It's a bigger deal than usual because you're going from like 30 to 33 HP. That's a big deal. Feed gives you this stuff, singing bowl. Every time you get an option to add a card to your deck, you can skip and gain 2 hit points instead. Yeah, so if I have one of those already, I'm a little bit more likely to take the event. But in general, really strong event. Do recommend. The one thing I didn't mention about how Intangible works is you can get more than one stack of it, and they'll last for more turns. So if you draw 3 of these, you can play all 3 of them. You're Intangible for the next 3 turns. It's important to keep in mind. And yeah, because you can do that, the variance doesn't hurt you as much after turn 1, because if you draw them all at once, you just get lots of stacks of Intangible, and then, you know, they last longer. It's just the issue of at the start of fights with this, if you don't draw them straight away, you can just get completely nuked and killed. Or at the end of fights, if you aren't capable of killing stuff fast enough, you may run out of them, and then you do need your deck to be able to block some other way, probably. So, Apparition, really strong. I look forward to playing with it more and finding out more about it. It's only been around for a couple of weeks. Do highly recommend grabbing this event, and hope that your experiences are as good with it as mine have been. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Joe Ribs. I've got links to Discord and Twitch chat and stuff like that below the video. I have the coolest D&D campaign going on with Filthy Robot over on his YouTube channel. I'm going to link it below the video here if you're at all interested in D&D and want to watch it. We are pretty deep in it now, but I am just having so much fun. I can't not plug it. I am having so much fun. So I wanted to plug it here. Let me know what you think about Apparition in the comments, and if you have cards or relics you'd like to hear me talk about, I'd love to hear that. I'm sort of getting through the ones that I want to talk about, so I'm ready to start talking about ones you want to hear about at this point. So please let me know. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.